Well, folks, it's been another year, so it's time for another edition to the SmackDown franchise. This year, the series has been completely rebranded, titled WWE 12, and with it comes a whole bunch of new additions that are sure to make a lot of fans happy. First off, let's talk about character models. It seems a lot of work has been put into modernizing everything, and this has been the first SmackDown in a while that's come out and isn't instantly dated by gimmicks changed or costume changes, things like that. Almost all of the entrance themes are correct, and anything that isn't, you can always tweak by yourself. So it's not a deal breaker by any means. It's not as bad as last year's edition. So let's talk about gameplay for a minute. Movement in general has been slowed down a lot this year. Instead of characters running around the ring, constantly trying to DDT each other, focus has been put on grappling. Animations have been smoothed out, and transitioning from move to move feels a lot more natural this year. All the grappling is now performed with the A button, or X if you're a PlayStation owner. That seems like a step back at first, but it feels pretty good after you get used to it. Moving the grapples to the A button frees up the right stick to do things like pick someone up or turn them around to get at their back. Submissions have gone back to a button-mashing style breaking point minigame, which works pretty well and adds some tension during matches with buddies. Kicking out of a pin is now just a timing exercise instead of button mashing. You're tasked with hitting a mark by holding down the A button and letting go within that mark. The more beat up you are, the harder it is to hit your mark. It's also much harder to kick out this year when you're beat up. Signatures work pretty much like they always have. Once you have a signature, you hit the Y button or triangle when you're in the right spot, and bam. Finishers, on the other hand, are much cooler this year with the addition of wake-up taunts. When you have a finisher banked, use the taunt wired to the up direction on the D-pad, and you will call for your opponent to stand up groggy. Just like on TV, your opponent standing in the perfect place for you to hit your finisher. There's also a comeback minigame if you're doing poorly in a match. If your character has a comeback animation, you enter a minigame similar to the hot tag minigame, and it gives you a chance to get back into a match. There are a bunch of characters to choose from, and a bunch more on the way through DLC. If you're a die-hard wrestling fan, I would recommend dropping $12 on the Season Pass, which allows you to download every character and alternate outfit from DLC for the year as soon as it drops. The first pack released had a bunch of fun stuff in it, including Jerry Lawler, Michael Cole, and JR, as well as a tag-era Edge and Christian and Shawn Michaels. Characters like Mick Foley and Macho Man are on the way. Something else that was shown a lot of love are character entrances. Take a look at Del Rio's here.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Alberto Del Rio's personal ring announcer, Ricardo Rodriguez. Damas y caballeros, su campeón de la WWE.
Man, that's douchey. Things like adding Ricardo Rodriguez are nice touches that bring the game alive and add some much-needed flair. WWE even paid for the rights to In Living Color's Cult of Personality as Punk's theme, and that's kind of surprising. Still no Pepsi tattoo, though. You're just going to have to make peace with that.
And his opponent from Chicago, Illinois, weighing in at 220 pounds, CM Punk.
Now, for those of you who have complained in the past about the game being too easy, you're in luck. A lot of work has been put into the AI this year, and it shows. I personally have played every SmackDown game since year one, and normally had no problem beating the AI on Legend difficulty. This year, it kicked my ass for a while until I got the hang of it. Even after that, it provides a nice challenge for veterans. It's not just hard for the sake of being hard, though. The AI seems to be smarter all the way around, no longer doing things like picking up weapons and then dropping them 2 seconds later, or whipping you into a corner only to then spin you around and around until you recover. The computer characters can be downright ruthless and normally try to use a finisher to end the match. Guys like Del Rio will work your arms until he can apply the cross arm breaker, and guys like Punk will work your head until he can use the go to sleep. This is made a lot easier thanks to the new limb targeting system. By simply tapping the right bumper or R1 button while grappling, you can select a limb and then target it working on it the entire match if you choose to. Universe Mode has also seen a lot of work this year. You can now change any match from the ground up at any time, making it a championship match or pretty much any other thing you can think of. The storyline sequences in Universe Mode tend to make a little more sense than they did last year. Feuds will carry over into the next show, partners can split up, and it even has features like the WWE Draft Show, complete with little animations that happen when someone gets drafted. An in-depth ranking system lets you know who is gunning for what belt, what show they're on, and what place they're in. There's also a news feature that keeps you up to date on things like draft picks, title changes, and injuries. That's right, there are now injuries in the game. If you work on a character long enough, you have a chance to injure them. They could be out for days, weeks, or even months. You can even go so far as to change an entire brand. Don't want Raw vs. SmackDown? Change it to ECW vs. WCW. You can also change all the titles if you want. This is a huge level of customization, and THQ should be congratulated for it. Road to WrestleMania is a far different experience than in past years. Before, you would choose from one of 5 or 6 superstars and play about 5 or 6 months worth of content, usually wrapping up at WrestleMania. Now you choose from one of 3 and play a much longer time period. The entire thing plays out like a movie for the most part. Instead of flat out winning or losing matches, you try to accomplish a goal while playing a match. Most of the time, there are context-sensitive animations that are used to keep the story of each match flowing. I like what they've done here for the most part, but I could see where this could be a problem for some people who enjoy more traditional story mode.
Well, there's just no telling, Michael. It doesn't matter who or what Undertaker faces in the ring. He loves to inflict punishment on his opponent.
We're all set, Jim.
Now let's talk about creation. With all the focus on core gameplay and the little additions that I mentioned earlier, something had to take a back seat. That something just happened to be most of the creative features, sadly, as that's my favorite part of the game. Creative finishers, superstar, and storyline are all exactly as you remember them last year. But it's not all bad news. Create an Arena has been added, which is a huge addition for those who want to relive the glory days of a long-dead wrestling company or run their own fictional wrestling fed online. There's also a great new feature that allows you to create a custom Titantron for your CAWs without mucking around in hours of the replay editor. By choosing between a few templates and options, you can actually create a quick and painless custom Titantron with your actual character in it, displaying some of his actual moves. Now let's talk about online. The big reason this review took so long is that I, like most people, just couldn't access the online servers. This has been a big issue in the first week of the game, but since then it's been pretty much fixed. THQ issued an apology, and it's not as big a deal as most wrestling fans will have you believe. When you're in a match, they run smoothly for the most part. The changes in the core gameplay have eliminated most of the move spammers and ladder whores from last year. This has presented a new problem of 12-year-olds cursing at you more for beating them, though. The community section is where you'll find created stories, wrestlers, arenas, and videos. If you wait around on the main menu, a pop-up ticker will display all the most popular downloadable items in the store so far. WWE 12 is a fantastic wrestling game. The latest additions are polished, add a lot to the experience, and just make the whole package feel more fresh than previous installments. Whether playing with your buddies or online, matches feel much more like they would on TV, and despite a few glitches here and there, this game is well worth your time.
Knee to the skull, the GTS connects. His shoulders are down.
1, 2, 3.
Punk did it. Punk got a huge win.